Hello brothers and sisters, and welcome to this video. It's Monday the 13th of January, 8 p.m. local time. So I thought I would open up with that very bizarre video of the Catholic Church and the circus show which was going on inside the Catholic Church. You can't even make it up. But there it is. Catholic Church is a circus show, literally. But then so are many other churches that identify with whichever denomination, Protestant or any of those man-made denominations. They've all fallen away. But we are not falling away because we are waiting for the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. We see him coming. We understand the times that we are living in. That day shall not approach us because we are not in darkness, because we are in the light of his glorious word. We are in the light of the gospel of Jesus Christ. We are in the glorious light of his shining word, which feeds our souls, the bread of our spirits, and the bread of our understanding. Just to start off, this is where Mars was on the 3rd of January. This is when Soleimani was killed as Mars comes up to Scorpio, which is the conflict. And then we've seen everything that's been happening with Iran attacking the military base, and in doing so, thinking that the Americans were responding, they shot down one of the airlines which was flying over the Iranian airspace, Ukrainian airline, and killing 176 people, most of whom were Iranian. So that has all happened while Mars has traversed Scorpio. And Scorpio, as we know, is the conflict. It is the conflict, and Mars is the planet of war. So we're coming up to Mars egressing Scorpio, and we'll see if anything else happens. So let's go through some headlines that I wanted to share with you guys, and I'll start off with the most grave of them all. Abortion was the leading cause of death worldwide in 2019. So here's something which the vast majority of churches are not addressing. They're not talking about it. They're ignoring it. And it is not something which is pleasant to even speak about, let alone it actually happening. So the fact is that God is witness to this day in and day out. 42 million babies equates to 115,000 babies every single day, and this is a global statistic, that are being murdered, and God is privy to every single one of them. So more human beings died in abortion than any other cause of death in 2019, a new report indicates. The heartbreaking reminder about the prevalence of abortion statistics compiled by Worldometers indicate that there were over 42.3 million abortions worldwide in 2019. And when contrasting the abortion numbers to other causes of death, including cancer, HIV, AIDS, traffic accidents, and suicide, abortions far outnumber every other cause. By contrast, 8.2 million died from cancer. In 2019, 13 million died from disease, 1.7 million died of AIDS. So 42 million babies were killed, murdered in the mother's womb in 2019. The judgment of God is coming. The judgment of God is coming. The things that we see in our world, the creation groans. The creation groans because of sin. And the things that are going on in our world are too horrific to even imagine, and God is privy to absolutely everything. That this statistic is just a statistic. He has been witness to all these things. He's the sovereign God who sees all things. Of course, he saw this before, and he warned us about this. And the Bible talks about the sacrifice of children. We saw that lady who stood up in front of the Golden Globes Awards and held her statue in her hand, and said that had she not aborted her baby, she wouldn't have been able to accomplish this award, which she obviously finds more valuable than her baby. And I think that is a good representation of the world that we live in today. That people just don't care about this wickedness which is going on all around us. Go to Google Maps and type in abortion clinic and see how close an abortion clinic is to you, and you'll see how far away babies are being murdered from you. And I think that's as much as I'll say on abortion. It needs to be spoken of and it needs to be addressed, because it is being ignored, and it's terrible. But if there's anything worse than abortion, it is the perverting of children's minds. And I just want to address something which I came across and is relevant to this. So I'm going to put the link to these pages in the description of the video. This is pornographic. This they call it comprehensive sexuality education, CSE, which they are now going to teach the children these perverse things when they're so young. And this is worldwide. This is a United Nations agenda, and they're doing it in Africa, they're doing it in Europe, and they're doing it in America. This is a global thing. And in Matthew chapter 18 verses 6, it says in Matthew chapter 18, "And Jesus called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye be converted, and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whosoever shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me as a child. But whosoever offend one of these little ones, which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea." And if you do a search for millstone in the Bible, you will see that every single reference to millstone is not a good thing. It talks about the hardness of the heart, and that the woman who smashed Abimelech's skull with a piece of a millstone, and all of them reference very bad things. But the most profound one that I found was the fact that why was Jesus talking about a millstone being hung around someone's neck who offends a child, and who does this? And in Genesis, where we see that Sodom was being destroyed, it said that all the people of Sodom, young and old, came to see the angels being sodomized, because they were doing these things in Sodom, where when people would come into the city, they would force them down and they would rape them. So when they came into the city, and the two angels came into Lot's home, and Lot pleaded with the people of Sodom to say, "Please, you can even have my daughters." That was an indication of the level of perversion. It's not just perversion. It's an aggressive, violent ideology of perversion as well. And we have in less than 10 years, we have seen homosexual marriage being approved and being recognized, and now drag queen library stories. So they're going after the children. And Jesus speaks about a millstone being hung around a person's neck and being chucked into the depths of the sea. And where else does it talk about a millstone being hung around someone's neck and being cast into the sea? It says in the book of Revelation, when it talks about Babylon, it says in Revelation 18:21, and a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down and found no more. So here we see the description of the destruction of Babylon being described in exactly the same way that Jesus described the punishment of these people who are going to offend one of these little ones. This is the perversion of children. That's what this is about. Gay marriage is one thing, abortion is another, but perverting little children's minds. And that is why the most threatening and violent words, if you will, of Jesus Christ was regarding the abuse, the offense of these little ones. And I have it on my heart, and I feel it is urgent that we need to understand that the offending of the little ones is the end game. That is the destruction of Babylon, is described as the very same thing as Jesus describes offending one of these little ones. So I believe that this here is the very worst thing. This is the end of the road as far as God's patience is concerned. Is when they're going to start doing this. And here we can see it says in this article, is it age appropriate to introduce 12-year-old children to anal sex? Is it medically accurate to encourage students to protect against sexually transmitted infections by using non-microwavable saran wrap as a prophylactic for oral sex? Planned Parenthood thinks so, and so does the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, which this Planned Parenthood Get Real. This is the curriculum that they're going to use to pervert children's minds. It's coming in the UK this year. It's as you can see, this is coming in the US, and this is what it's all about. And I believe that this is the most offensive thing that man can do, is to pervert an innocent child's mind. It's one thing to murder the child in the womb. It's another thing to let it be born and grow up and then pervert its mind, because obviously the child in the womb has the benefit of its soul going to heaven, whereas the child who is being raised into this filth is then becomes indoctrinated into wickedness. So this is profound. I wanted to share this with you. I'm going to also share this site called Stop CSE, which is Comprehensive Sexuality Education. Please share the site and broadcast this, and let this be known. This is a war on children. I don't even have kids, guys, and this is highly offensive to me. This is deeply painful to see what they are actually doing here, what they are actually promoting, and what they are, what their agenda is. Just the sexualization of little children, and yeah. So that's what's going on, and this is all coming about this year, and so God's not going to be too much longer in this, I don't believe. So I start off with the grave things. The rest of the stuff isn't as heavy and weighty as that, but I wanted to get that out of the way first. Okay, then we see Avi Berkowitz. This guy is the replacement for, he's on the right, he's the replacement for Jason Greenblatt on the left, and he went to Israel on the 7th of January, which was just last week, and he went there to discuss the peace deal of the century, and obviously that was after the killing of Soleimani and everything that happened with Iran. So it's very much still on the cards. The peace deal of the century is coming, and it says here that the talks are likely focused on the administration's still unpublished peace plan, which has been delayed repeatedly by the political uncertainty in Israel. According to unconfirmed reports, Berkowitz discussed the possibility of releasing the plan even before the March vote. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that it will come after the elections, and we are shortly going to find out. So there Avi Berkowitz went, and this is again tampering with God's land. God says, this is my land. The Jews are the stewards of the land, but the land is not to be sold. The boundary stones are not to be moved. God said, remember this unto 1,000 generations. Unto thee I give the land of Canaan. The Jews are the stewards of the land, no one else. And no one can change that. Not even the Jews themselves can decide to give their land away. The land, God says, it's my land. He describes it as his land. So all throughout the Bible, it talks about a treacherous deal, that this deal is going to come along, and it's going to be a treacherous deal, and the world's going to celebrate this deal. The world's going to think it's wonderful. But Isaiah says, a grievous vision is declared unto me. The treacherous dealers treacherously. The treacherous dealers. So Isaiah describes the world celebrating this as wonderful, saying even glory to the righteous. They think that this is going to be great. But Isaiah understands the gravity of what's happened, because they've broken the everlasting covenant. They've broken the covenant that God made with Abraham right at the start, right at the beginning. God made a covenant with Abraham, put Abraham to sleep. It was an unconditional covenant, and went through the sacrifice, made the figure of 8. As he went through the sacrifice, Abraham wasn't even awake. And God said, unto thee I give the land of Canaan. This is yours. So the land belongs to God, and there are supernatural things which I don't think that men truly understand with regards to that land, and the very creation as we know it, and the dividing of that land and allocating that land to a people who God has not recognized as his own is the end of the game. That's the end. That is the moment. It's the biggest sign that the world can see, that it's something tangible. Nobody can deny it. Nobody can say, I didn't see it, I wasn't aware of it, God wasn't clear enough. No, it's there for all of us to see and watch coming, and we've watched this coming since the very day after the Great American Eclipse on the 21st of August 2017. Jared Kushner headed to the Middle East, and we've still been waiting. It's now ready. So they say it's ready to go, and God has prolonged it and prolonged it and prolonged it. And we have waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. But it's coming. It's coming. And there's nothing else that's going to be like that. There's nothing that has been kept in limbo for so long. There just doesn't exist anything that even comes close in comparison to what this is. So this is what I'm watching, and this is the greatest sign of all that we're going to get, is this dividing of his land. Okay, and as Avi Berkowitz then goes to Israel, within 48 hours, torrential rain breaks out in northern Israel and breaks 51-year record. You'll know that four people died in these floods. There were deaths in Tel Aviv. A couple got caught in an elevator and they died as well. So this is God's land, guys, and this is torrential rain in northern Israel, breaking a 51-year record. If you have a look at the Kinneret, which is the Sea of Galilee, and how quickly that's risen as well. Incredible things that they're seeing in Israel with regards to rain that they haven't seen before. And it says that the day of the Lord comes upon them as travail upon a woman. And of course, when a woman goes into travail, her water breaks. And we've seen this kind of idea before in the past, and here we can see this is continuing to happen. And there are these floods in Israel, and here you can see, will the coming rain bring about a return of the floods? As rain spreads throughout Israel, cities and streams are at renewed risk of flooding. So they've got all these floods which are occurring in Israel. Here you can see even their military equipment has been flooded. Advanced Israeli fighter jets damaged in massive floods. You can't fight a war if your fighter jets are underwater. Fortunately, it was only an isolated area, but military officials say tens of millions of shekels in damage could have been avoided, as civil authorities trade blame. Heavy rainstorms that raged across Israel last week caused tens of millions of shekels in damage to fighter jets and maintenance equipment at an army base in southern Israel. So, yeah, interesting times happening. Interesting times. And here we see, at the very same time as this happens, severe storms sweep southeast US, killing 11. There were tornadoes which tore up people's homes and killed 11 people. And so the signs are continuing to happen. The weather anomalies around the world, which of course everybody blames on climate change, which has nothing to do with global warming. It is global warnings. God is warning the world, but they take comfort in this notion of climate change. You see, sinful man will take safety in the idea of no, it's our industry that's doing it. It's burning carbon and fossil fuels and all these things. That gives sinful man a respite from the idea that this is God who's just about to judge the world. So of course the whole world thinks, it's just climate change, we can just use less deodorant cans and stop flying flights and listen to whatever Greta Thunberg says, and we can save our planet. Not going to happen. God is warning us. These are warnings which are taking place, and the warnings come to an end, and they've been going on for a very long time now. And then here, going back, I probably should have put this one a little bit further forward. The UK court to rule if a clinic can carry out gender reassignments on children as concerns over methods mount. So this is talking about these children who are being given these chemicals because they feel as though they are in the wrong body or that they are the wrong gender. And of course, this was not happening 50, 40, 30 years ago. No, this is an end times problem because the world has rejected the word of God. The world has rejected what's going on in the spiritual. They believe it doesn't exist. And of course, so they become puppets for the satanic agenda. And that's why girls think that they're boys think that they're girls. Everyone's depressed. The main reason for deaths, teenage deaths now in the US, is suicide, and because they don't have protection against any of this. We've got the media, we've got the music, we've got the sitcoms, we've got Hollywood projecting all this nonsense, all this pointless filth, which has no means to an end. There's no meaning to it. There's nothing. There's no goal. There's no objective. It's just an empty void. And man was not made for that. Man was made to serve God, to love God, to understand that Jesus Christ is Lord, that He is our hope, and He is the one that we look to for our hope, and He is the one that feeds our souls, nourishes us spiritually, and in Him we find satisfaction. But of course the world wants to do everything it can to prevent people from realizing that truth. And one of the statistics here, it says the number of children going through this gender identity change has risen by a whopping 30 times over the last decades, from 77 patients a year in 2008 to almost 3,000 from 77 patients in 2008 that had this gender identity confusion, right? To 3,000 in 2018. This is the end. This is the demonic and satanic confusion which comes at the end, and God puts a stop to it, because what they want to do is they want to tell you that this is normal. Not only that it's normal, but that your taxes that you work for and you pay over to the government, your taxes must pay for this. Your taxes must pervert these children's minds. Your taxes must pay for this gender reassignment and poisoning of these children so that their puberty will stop. Your taxes that you earn honestly in your working job must pay for this kind of wickedness to be enforced upon people. And of course, this is the end game, guys. So I hope you can see. I know I get very worked up when it comes to kids and the abuse of kids, mental abuse, spiritual wickedness, which is that's Satan's end game, is to target the children. So there's that. Next is, of course, the fires which have been happening in Australia, the most unbelievable fires. Last year we saw the Taiga biome, remember, just north of Alaska and north of Russia, that massive area which is the second lung in the world after the Amazon. Then we saw the Amazon burning. Then we saw massive fires in Africa as well, which was going on at the same time. Now we see these fires in Australia, and of course these ones are the most profound because these were closest to a populated area, and these ones have wiped out or nearly wiped out a lot of species which are in Australia. So this is catastrophic. It's absolutely heartbreaking. This is it's so sad. It is so sad. The creation groans, right? The creation groans because of the wickedness of men and because of man's sin. This is the reason why God told us in the book 2,000 years ago that a third of the trees are going to burn and all the green grass, and that means all the animals that are in there. This isn't even the start of tribulation. This is the warnings. This is the warning. Much worse is coming than this. I hate to say it. All the fish in the sea are going to die. The mountains are going to melt. Man will be burned as chaff in the fire. I've said it time and time again, but it's coming closer and closer. And as we see the day encroaching upon us, so much more we see fires all over the place. Wildfires, burning places, burning nature, burning. And of course, what happens? They blame it on climate change. They blame it on climate change. They won't repent. They won't see their sin. They won't see their wickedness. They don't see that this is the result of the murder of the child in the womb. God says, I will take your land, the beasts of the field, the flocks of birds in the air, the fish in the sea. I'll take it all away from you if you don't recognize your sin. If you, wicked man, will not recognize your sin, I'll take your world and your land away from you. And that's what's happening. And innocent, totally innocent little animals. Yes, that's the gravity of it. That's what God says. What about the innocent little babies? What about the innocent little babies? It's men's wickedness first that has brought this on. This is the result. And it's going to get much, much, much worse. Much worse. The whole world will be burned. God is going to bring a new creation. If all the fish in the sea die, the book of Revelation says all the fish, every soul in the sea died, dead. Everything in the sea is dead. God's going to create a new creation. There's going to be a new creation. There's going to be new animals which he's going to create. We're going to see him create them. But first he's going to burn this world, and he's going to burn the unbelievers in the world on it when he does it. He's going to scorch mankind, and he's going to burn the entire world. The whole world is going to be burned. All the works therein shall be burned up. He's going to melt men like wax in the fire. The judgment of God is coming. The judgment of God is coming. More fires. Wildfire rips along South Korea's eastern coast, prompting national emergency. South Korea, there you go. Look at that. More fires. Anybody who thinks that they can survive what Jesus is going to do to this world, John the Baptist told us, he shall baptize this world in unquenchable fire. It's unquenchable. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be stopped. And it's coming. It's coming. 3 volcanic eruptions from 3 different countries in 3 days. In actual fact, there's a 4th one which has just gone off here, but I'm sure you guys will all know about these ones. This one in the Philippines, which was a Taal volcano. This is only a very small one. This is a very, very small volcano that has caused all this. They're evacuating 500,000 people around this volcano. Then we saw one in Japan. Japan's Mount Shintaki alert level was raised to 3. This thing blew off. And this one is Mexico's, I can never pronounce that word, Popocatépetl volcano. That one is very close to Mexico City. So 3 volcanoes, in actual 4 volcanoes. There's one in Ecuador which has gone off, which I've just seen. And plumes of smoke. Australia, plumes of smoke. The Tiaga biome last year, plumes of smoke. The Amazon burning, plumes of smoke. Will you wake up, world? Will you wake up and recognize the times that we're living in? It's not a coincidence that we see all these things happening, and we see at the same time World War III is coming. World War III is coming. And we see at the same time men getting married. And we see at the same time children's minds being perverted. All at the same time. And the rainbow flag. The rainbow flag. What does God have to do to wake the world up? What does God have to do to wake the world up? I don't know. But I can only do what I'm doing and try my hardest and just plead. Wake up, world. Wake up. Here's more photos of this incredible volcano. Warnings that God is giving us. If people would just recognize them and understand. God is not playing games. This is only 4 volcanoes. There are thousands of volcanoes around the world. And they're all going to go off in the day of the Lord. Then we see this Iranian news agency makes a second video of them trying to, or showing Trump being assassinated. So the Iranians by no means have have avenged the blood of their general. There's no doubt about that. They are still going to avenge that blood. So I hope and pray that this does not happen. But this is what their desire is to assassinate Trump. So I thought I'd point that out to you. There's I'll put all these links in the videos if you want to go through them, guys. And then we see here, this was incredible. Now here is a photo. If you might have seen it, but this is a photo of the recent solar eclipse which took place in the Middle East. So this photo was taken here. You can see the sun being eclipsed by the moon, right? So, but look at this. Look at how this looks like. There you can see it in the sky. But look at how this looks on the ocean. That looks just like horns. And you know, it blows my mind because the sovereignty of God, you have to understand that He is in control of this. The eclipse itself is an incredible phenomenon. You know, the moon fits perfectly into the sun, and not only does God control this, but He then has a man in the Persian Gulf, which is where Iran and all these problems are happening. He has a man in the Persian Gulf positioned at the right place at the right time with the technology to take a perfect picture of devil horns rising up out of the sea. Look at that. And what does the book of Revelation say? I know it says I stood on the banks of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea. Look at that. Look at that. Devil horns. So I think that's pretty fantastic. I think that's absolutely amazing. It blows my mind how God does that. And He knows we're going to be looking at these things. He knows they're going to be on social media, and we're going to see these as signs. And I think that's pretty profound. Those devil horns on the sea, which is the combination of the solar eclipse and a mirage as well. So that gives it the sort of the head there, right? So I think that's pretty amazing. And then last but not least, the impeachment, and it's now going to the Senate, and John Bolton has agreed to testify if they will let him, and we're going to find out if that is the case. And that is coming up, obviously, and all this is happening at the same time. So 2020 is looking like a profound year for prophecy. We're going to see the things which are coming up in March, and the Israeli election obviously is at the beginning of March, on March the 2nd, and then we have Jupiter and Saturn with Mars all around the same area in Sagittarius. So we will keep our eyes tuned. And that's everything that I wanted to go through. I love you guys. Keep reading the Word of God. Keep watching. And I will update you as soon as I can. And I will see